but Iconic's DNA is really underwriting, looking at unit economics, looking at growth. And when we were close to Anthropic, and those in our network were very close to Anthropic, we were excited by the company from the beginning, but it wasn't until they really flipped from a negative operating margin to a positive operating margin where we saw this is a seriously big company. The growth was incredible, but if you're running a negative margin, that growth becomes really expensive. And so that turn for us was a big signal. And then obviously spending a lot of time with the management team, spending a lot of time with Dario, there was a lot of excitement about this business. And so I think Iconic has led or co-led the last 3 rounds and is the only sort of institutional investor to have done that. Super proud of the investment. But I think, as folks know about Iconic, the network of Iconic is not just a lot of CEOs and founders, there's a lot of operators in the network as well. And so when we're looking at these companies, whether it's an emerging AI company, a SaaS business, or a platform like Anthropic, a lot of what we're doing is deep, deep diligence. Right now you're seeing enormous amount of tech spend, and it's coming from the top down, directed by boards to their team, saying AI is real, we don't exactly understand the growth of it and the implications of it, but we need to go and experiment with it. And so there's a lot of experimental revenue that's happening as opposed to annualized, sort of true ARR. And a lot of what we did with Anthropic and what we do generally is go deep into the network, do a lot of vetting, a lot of diligence calls, and really try to decipher between what's ARR and what's ERR. And I think that was also a turning point for Anthropic, where we were seeing kind of the traction of this business and how embedded it was in a lot of the customers that they were having. So from that moment on, it was sort of full on conviction in the business, which we continue to have today and are so honored to be a large investor in that business and support their growth.
So I have to ask, Anthropic is now racing OpenAI to go public. Does Anthropic want to go public first?
I'm not going to comment on who wants to go public first. I'll just say that these are all incredible companies, and the whole race, if you will, that you mentioned, these are companies that are large, that are growing, that have significant revenue, significant traction, have enormous importance in the world. And I think you will see all of these companies go public at some point in time. They all are at size and scale to go do so. It's just a question of when the timing's right for each of them, and they're working their way through that now.
Oh. Eric, so you co-led Anthropic Series G just a couple of months ago, and you've said that you are sensitive on valuation, which is confusing given the valuations that we're talking about here. So talk to me a little bit about when you're evaluating a business, how do you think about kind of the revenue multiples, and when is evaluation kind of more speculative, and when is it really grounded in the numbers?
Yeah. Catherine, by the way, it's great to be here with Forbes. It's great to see everybody. So I work with the government of Singapore's sovereign wealth fund called GIC. And so we have a very diversified, think of it almost like an endowment for a country portfolio. And so when we think about themes in which we have a lot of conviction, so clearly artificial intelligence is one of them, we don't view this as transformational. It really is a foundational new technology. We don't want to make just one bet. And so we've looked at this as something where we're really investing across the landscape. So we're starting with investing in the enablers. So we have a large infrastructure business. So we're investing in power, we're investing in data centers, we're investing in the chip companies. Then we're investing in the makers, these builder companies that are actually developing the technologies or closely building new tools on top of it. So Anthropic would fall into that middle bucket. And then we have a large portfolio of public investments and private equity investments where we're actively involved trying to help the companies make changes and improve their businesses. And happy to talk about the AI impact on that part of the portfolio. But in this part of the portfolio, Anthropic is obviously a critical player in the AI evolution. And so I think we have watched that company for a couple of years. I think we've garnered a lot of confidence in their business momentum. We could see the use cases in the portfolio that it clearly was developing, like an ROI for actual end users driving business change. And so this is one where, given the growth, given the way the business was being built, its values and focuses, and then the real impact it was having, it was one that we were able to get comfortable with. But you're right, it was expensive.
Yeah, so coming to you, Sung-Yi, you're an early stage investor, so you're looking at companies that are really different from what might get Eric focused on. And one trend we've talked about is neolabs. So this, we have these major LLM companies now, but there's a bunch of venture activity happening with very, very early startups that maybe don't have a product, maybe have no revenue at all, maybe don't even know what they're building, but they're still raising tons of money. I would love to hear your thoughts on this trend in investing right now.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a really great honor to be with this panelists on the same stage. I mean, I think it's a really interesting phenomena that like neolabs, as you said, there's no product, no real business plan other than very smart engineers and scientists who have some vision and who have a hunch that they have some hypothesis they can come up with new breakthrough. It's not new. I think we have had that type of organizations in the past. They were like AT&T Bell Labs, they were Park. They're the kind of institutions that were doing that type of aspirational research. And yes, a lot of the technology that came out of that effort had a tremendous economic value. But it was the place for patient capital that doesn't have a kind of time clock associated with it. What's interesting about the NeoLab today is that it's being funded by venture funds that has a kind of actual time clock that needs a liquidity at some certain point. That makes that investment like an option investment, because in option, you have to be both directionally right and the timing has to be right. Otherwise, your option is going to be expiring to zero value. So it's a very volatile investment.